Hey everyone, welcome back to Church and State. My name is Timothy Johnson, and on this show, we keep the church out of the state, but not the state out of the church. What? I just messed with it. Hey everyone, my name is Timothy Johnson. Welcome back to Church and State. On this show, we keep the state out of the church, but not the church out of the state. But today we're going to be handling a very important question. What do you do with a state-sanctioned church? What do you do when the state is telling the church what to do, what to say, and everything that goes along with that? It reminds me very much of communist China under Mao Zedong during the Cultural Revolution. In fact, we're going to relate what's happening in Canada today and pastors of what they're saying in Canada to what happened in communist China under Mao Zedong with the Red Guard. As you know, the truckers are standing for freedom and they're facing a lot of backlash. Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister, is already enacting emergency powers of which he promises are only temporary. But where have we heard that before?
I love the Republic. The power you give me, I will lay down when this crisis has abated.
This is all for the good of the Republic. It is all for the good of democracy. In fact, it's very interesting comparing Canada to China. Justin Trudeau, his favorite example of how to run a nation was actually China. Listen to this.
Even with Sun TV watching for any slip, he was asked which country he most admired and referred to China.
There's a level of admiration I actually have for China because their basic dictatorship is allowing them to actually turn their economy around on a dime and say we need to go green as fast as we need to start investing in solar. I mean, there is a flexibility that I know Stephen Harper must dream about of having a dictatorship that he could do everything he wanted that I find quite interesting.
It seems that some churches in Canada and some pastors in Canada are also supporting this. For example, listen to this clip. Oh, hey, real quick, if you would like to support this content, the videos that we do, the articles, and the website, everything that we're doing with Red Liberty Media, help us grow. Become a Patreon subscriber today. The link right here will help you do that. Just click that, and it will also be in the description box below this video. Anyways, back to our scheduled program. In this clip, you have a clergyman wearing a mask and being a false witness to what is happening during the trucker convoy freedom protest. And he is praising the government. Listen to this.
I feel sad because of what I see happening in Ottawa with the so-called trucker protest. That Canada, as diverse a country as it is, consists mostly of polite, gentle, respectful, sorry-saying people the rest of the world has come to admire. But all that is gone now. The same sentiment we saw rise in America is now rising in Canada. The same mean-spirited and divisive rhetoric being espoused by Donald Trump and members of the Republican Party under his control is now being touted by Maxime Bernier and his People's Party, and by many conservative candidates as well, the far-right fringe, you might say. I'm talking about self-serving politicians and protest organizers bent on attacking journalists, undermining science, and chipping away at the foundations of civil society. All of them, I believe, are purveyors of misinformation, disinformation, conspiracy theories, and junk science. As in America, I believe these politicians and organizers pose an existential threat.
Isn't that amazing? The words that he uses, it actually reminds me of what the Apostle Paul says in 2 Corinthians 11:13. He says, "For such men are false apostles, deceitful workers, disguising themselves as apostles of Christ. No wonder, for even Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. Therefore, it is not surprising if his servants also disguise themselves as servants of righteousness, of whose end will be according to their deeds." I think this pastor fits that exact criteria. He cannot discern what is really happening. He worships the state instead of God, because if he really worshiped God, right, what we learned before, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's liberty, He would uphold the dignity of the individual rather than the power of the state. But what's happening in Canada and with these state-sanctioned churches like this pastor also reminds me of what happened during communist China during the Cultural Revolution. Mao Zedong overtook China during the Communist Revolution, and he beat the nationalists with Chiang Kai-shek. Now, when he took over, he had this little red book that would tell his guards how to act and what to do, kind of like a rule book. When he took power, he didn't get rid of religion all the way. He allowed some churches to be patriotic churches so that he would have the appearance of being religious friendly. But what happened is those churches that were allowed to remain, they had to pledge their allegiance to the state, to Mao. And all the religious artifacts in there, especially like a picture of a cross, he would get rid of, and they would place a picture of himself where the cross was. And so the churches that were left without a soul. And so the churches that did not agree to this were persecuted. The believers were thrown in jail along with other people as well. This is exactly what happens. You have to be able to discern what is truly right and what is almost right. In this case, you have a churchman, you have a clergy member, that's great. But you have to look at what they say, because not everything that comes out of someone who's a clergy member is true. And not everything that comes out of someone who's in the government is true. And just because they say something that sounds good doesn't necessarily mean they really care for your well-being. This is why we need to be able to have wisdom and have eternal truths to guide us. And that's why our founders were so smart. I'm so thankful for our Constitution. We went over this in our last episode. Check it out, because our Constitution provides the framework and the guidelines and the protections for the dignity of the individual, so that what is happening in Canada right now cannot happen here, because we have protection. So a quick rule of thumb, how can you tell if a church is kind of right on or not? One, does it line up with God's word? But two, look at how much big tech, Facebook, Instagram, other people, the media, try to silence them. Look at how much maybe the current administration tries to denounce those kind of people. That'll give you a good heads up, because I guarantee you, Mao Zedong would not be giving praise to, say, a Jack Hibbs in Calvary Chapel or a Rob McCoy here in Calvary Chapel Godspeak. He'd be giving praise more to this clergyman. The major two forces that are guiding, say, the Canadian trucker movement and Justin Trudeau's actions are rooted in fear, because he wants to control and he wants to have power and pride. And so he keeps people in fear. The trucker movement is guided by liberty that is rooted in the trust and the worth of the individual. You are valuable, and we just had Valentine's Day. You are valuable no matter what, because you are created in the image of God. He wanted you to be here. You are meant to be here at this moment in history. He has a plan for your life. And no matter what a government or a clergy member says, or anyone else, that worth does not change for what you do, what you will do, or what you have done. He says, I love you. And because of that, we should look at what's happening in history and have that lens to see what's happening now, and then we can find out where we're going. This has been Church and State. My name is Timothy Johnson from Red Liberty Media. Thanks for watching.